Well, good evening, everyone. See, I didn't say hey there. Now I said it. But hi, guys. I hope everyone is well. Clay is fresh back from a Florida trip where he is just jumping out of planes like he does. So welcome back.
Yeah, it was a great trip. One of my veteran organizations I belong to, Phantom Airborne Brigade, bunch of good folks. You can check them on the internet. Funding, it's a 501(c) nonprofit. So if you want to throw some money their way, that would be much appreciated. But great time with a bunch of old paratroopers. And yes, I made it alive and unscathed.
Phew. Thank goodness. We got to get you back here for this show. That's the priority. Never mind everything else in your life. Never mind that stuff. It's all about the show, Clay.
I'm here for you, Elsa. That's how this works.
Thank you. I'm glad you have your priorities right. All right, guys. Right after this, we're going to get on with the show. Hey, everybody. We are back. We've got lots of stuff to talk about. And I don't know if you noticed or not, changed up the music a little bit. It's time for a little change. Felt like a little update was due. So that's what we did. Feel free to tell us what you think. If you liked it, you hated it, or you don't care. Go ahead. Tell me you don't care. I'm fine with that. I actually love when people do that. I love when people come into my video comments and, and I'm assuming they watch through the whole thing and they wait for the very end. And then they jump in the comments to say, who cares? Well, clearly you do if you're commenting.
Yeah, those probably happen in the first 7 seconds.
I swear I think they do.
I think they're not waiting the 7 to 10 to 12 minutes to tell you that they don't care.
They love to tell me. I appreciate their energy. Appreciate that passion or lack thereof. I don't know, whatever. Let's talk about Biden. This is so crazy. This is so shocking to me, and it shouldn't be. Why would I be shocked about this? But everybody has to be scratching their heads right now going, hang on a second. And I know that enough people are, because there's memes and things going around all over the place. And I saw one that summed it up really well. And you've probably seen this one. I'm going to throw it up. It's probably going to come up like right between us, but, is this the one? Yeah, I like this one. Hang on, I'm moving the banner out of the way. It says, if Biden is too feeble to be prosecuted, he's too feeble to be president. Now, this seems kind of like a no-brainer, doesn't it? It feels like a no-brainer. And yet, there's not going to be any charges. There's no apparent plan that we know of to take him out of commission here. And I want to talk about why. Let's throw some opinions out there on why we think that's the case. Why are they not putting this guy out to pasture?
So I think, Congress, there was talk immediately after the special counsel came out, because that's where this came from. Mm-hmm. Special counsel, this is a legal opinion. This is not, and I think that's the difference is it's not a medical opinion. Okay. So there is a, split between the two, but the legal opinion matters. Mm-hmm. It does, right? If he's too feeble-minded to be prosecuted, he's too old, his memory's bad. I think the words were, he is an elderly, well-intentioned man with a very poor memory.
Yes.
So I think those are the exact words that were used.
Yeah, you got it.
But that keeps him from being prosecuted. Like Department of Justice special counsel says, we're not going to pursue this because he is incapable of being tried due to his mental capacity or lack thereof. So I think that what is the hangup is this is not a medical opinion. And that unfortunately, the White House medical staff, the doctors and everybody else continually say that the president is in perfect shape. He's fine. Right. Totally capable of doing his job. And you hear, the White House, press, whatever her name is, I can never remember.
Oh, yeah. Karine Jean-Pierre.
Yeah. Jean-Claude Van Damme, whatever it is.
Yeah, exactly. I'm always tempted to say that too.
Yeah. She defends him all the time, and he defends himself. He got up there. The White House press corps went after him a little bit, and he turned into the angry old man. Get off of my lawn!
Yeah, get off my lawn.
Yeah, my memory is perfect. And he gave all of that. But again, I think the biggest thing is that it's the difference between the legal opinion and the medical opinion. Now, I would say that any American with any sense at all, if you can't objectively look at this and say that this is genuinely, truly messed up, then you probably shouldn't be voting in the first place. You probably don't have the capacity to vote.
Absolutely.
And I don't say things like that often, but this is so blatant to all of us.
Yes.
That if a legal opinion is that you can't be held accountable, tried, then you shouldn't be president, period.
Right.
And it's amazing to me because there are people, you said it, like there's people that are like, so
flat out. So better than Trump,
right.
I'd rather take this feeble old man than, who's clearly in a dramatic decline that is getting more rapid by the day. And they're saying still better. Now that's just, to me, take your voter card away from you. Take your intelligence card, whatever it is, you get none. You have none. You have no business being a part of any part of this process. And, obviously that's not going to happen. These idiots are still going to place their votes and, for anything not Trump, basically. And that's their sole criteria. They don't care about anything. They certainly don't care about this country. They just care that it's not Trump. So I really I have a very strong contempt for those people and for the people right now in the White House, for Joe Biden, for anyone surrounding this man. This is elder abuse at this point.
Elsa, I've said this for really since the campaign.
Yeah.
That she is, and I've tried to, I've bitten my tongue. I've tried to say it as nicely as possible, but I've used the words elder abuse, neglect. I would tell you, watching this as it continues to progress, that Dr. Jill Biden is number one, the worst first lady we've ever had.
Yes.
But without question. Worst first lady we've ever had. And second, she is a horrible human being. Not even a horrible wife. She is a horrible human being. And people can say I'm attacking her. You're right. I am, because what she is standing by and allowing to happen is reprehensible. Should be prosecuted in a court of law. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And if anybody needs to be held accountable for this, it's her. Why? Because he is outside of his mental faculties. She is responsible for him as his spouse, as his next of kin, to make those types of decisions. This is on her, as much as more so than it is anybody else. And she is just a horrible human being for allowing this to go on. I'm not biting my tongue anymore. That woman should be in jail. At the end of this, all of this, if he even survives the next few months, the campaign, which I still offer will probably has the potential to kill him. She should be in jail for this. She really should. It's ridiculous.
Based on the last handful of videos, and I would say about 3 videos, the most recent 3 videos that I've seen, there's, in my mind, there is no way he's going to be around for much longer. The level of decline, like I said before, is so drastic. It's so sharp. It's like off a cliff.
This is Morgan Sherwin and Sam Cerruti. They're our team members here. They help us. They help us, service and sales.
They bring him in to wherever, and he starts to shuffle forward, and the guy actually puts his hand on him like this, pushing him back like as a child, like when you hold back a kid from, running ahead and going too fast. And then the woman that he's introduced to, the way she even speaks to him, she literally was speaking to a child. It's your automatic, your default when you start talking to a child, and you can hear her, you don't see her, but she's in the background. You hear her say, "Hi," like, "Hi, little old man." "Hi, little child." It was like Miss Rachel. If any of the parents out there knew who I'm talking about, you maybe don't, because I only know because of the grandkids, but she's a kids show host, whatever. But she's got that very, very high and pleasing voice to children, not to adults. But that was the whole gist of it. And his face, it was completely blank.
Yep.
It was so, and I genuinely despise the man. I think he is right along with Jill. I think they are horrible, horrible people. And yet I actually felt bad in that moment. Not for Joe Biden, but for that old man who had no idea where he was. And he was just being carted around and just herded about. It is horrendous. And I'm glad you didn't pull any punches on Jill Biden, because she deserves none. She deserves no credit, no nothing. She is as horrible as she said she is. And it is within her power, I would imagine, to just stop this and say, no, we can't do this anymore. It's got to be done. And I'm sure there's a lot of reasons. I'm sure there's significant reasons why they're not. And by the way, I just saw today that our Jean-Claude Van Damme there, Karine Jean-Pierre, just said that, I think it was her that said it, but they put out the statement that Biden will not be taking a cognitive test. He's the first president to refuse. Now, it's not even decline, refuse to take a cognitive test. So, I mean, if nothing else told you what's going on here, that's the final straw right there. That's the final nail in the coffin. That's probably pretty morbid given who and what we're talking about overall. But yeah, so crazy to me. And it's all wrong. Now, I can only speculate here. This is something that's bounced around in my head. And I don't think I'm far-fetched here, because I think a lot of people have thought this too. Besides what you said, which is very logical and practical, that, that was a legal assessment, not a medical assessment. The next thing you would have to say is everybody's, looking to his left, or maybe his right, whatever you want to call it, and looking at who's next in line, who's jumping on board and filling that seat. Who's the seat warmer until this next election goes on. And obviously we all know the answer to that is Cammie. It's cackling Cammie, and nobody, and I mean nobody, wants that. Maybe a couple nut jobs who just want her because of her skin color and biology, but generally people in their own camps are like, no freaking way. We have got a weekend at Bernie's this guy until the end, and ride this out, because then, obviously what's next? Well, she jumps in. The next line of action is, do they have to nominate her, for president? What do they do? So I think they've got quite the conundrum, unless they have it all planned out. I have no idea. What do you think?
So you're right about the vice president. So the biggest reason why he has not been pulled, he's not going to be pulled prior to the election unless they're pulled. The decision is to not run again, right? That's the only way out of this, because if they pull him for cognitive reasons, whatever, and they put her in, right? If the 25th Amendment is enacted in some form or fashion, or if he steps down for medical reasons and she becomes the president, then yes, the DNC is put in a bad spot, because they either have to endorse her as the next candidate, or they don't, in which case everybody says she's incapable. If you're not going to run her again as the Democratic National Committee, then you are saying she's incompetent, incapable, which they're not going to do. So that's the reason why you're not seeing the turnover, and it's all political. I mean, they're torturing this poor old man. But I'll go back to the denial of the cognitive test. Your husband, right? Law enforcement officer, What happens in every state in the union when you refuse a field sobriety test? What happens? You're immediately guilty. You get cuffs put on you. You get thrown in the back of the car. You get taken to the station. Right.
Yep.
That you refuse a breathalyzer, refuse field sobriety test. You're done, and you're going to the holding cell, and you're getting charged. And
when you're Joe Biden, you get ice cream.
Yeah. And fine. Listen, if they want to put him in a home somewhere and feed him ice cream every day, good. He's 80 years old. Fine. He'll be in a crowd with a bunch of guys just like him. But this is it is criminal. I mean, it really, really is criminal. And I swear that the 25th Amendment process, one, I don't think it'll happen fast enough to really affect anything. But two, the hangup is no medical. That's it. This is based on a legal opinion, not on a medical opinion. And as soon as that happens, then I think the whole 25th Amendment goes down the drain because they don't have any medical opinion that says so. And he's refusing to take the test, so they're not gonna get a medical opinion to force the issue. So and Kamala's got to be sitting there in the background going, "You better put me in, coach. You better put me in." And they're like, "No, part of me agrees with you. I can never decide what that woman is really thinking. Does she comprehend? A lot of nothing. She's thinking a lot of nothing.
Whole bunch of nothing.
Yeah.
Maybe she thought she would just ride this out until the end and, go off and do whatever it is she wants to do next. Two schools of thought, of course. She's either dying to get in there and make her mark, which is no mark whatsoever. Or she knows what the real deal is that she too will be just a puppet, just a figurehead. She has no power, no real say, no nothing. There's puppet masters pulling all of those strings, which has been the case all along. And let's face it, we all know, whether you want to believe it or agree with it or not, we all know that the Biden crime family is about as corrupt as you can get. So I am sure there was so much going on in the background that they maybe can't even do anything. Maybe when he still had his mental faculties about him, maybe he, gave them a little bit of, listen, you throw me under the bus, you toss me. Here's what's going to happen. All these things are going to, and you're going to get called out and you're going to get called out. And a lot of things are going to, who knows? They're just a bunch of dirty, disgusting people. They just are. And
and here's what we do know, right? And this is, the segue to the next topic is that he is not being prosecuted for the classified documents.
Right.
But President Trump still is.
Yeah. How about that? How about that?
Again, how is that anybody with a conscience at all? Anybody with common sense, anybody with a conscience has to look at that and go, it can't be this way. It can't be the guy sitting in office is mentally incapable of standing trial, but yet he's going to stay in office and he's not going to get prosecuted because he's mentally, incapable, but yet the guy who's challenging to replace him, who is mentally capable, is going to get prosecuted so that he can't replace him in office. Like it's the most backwards thing you ever wanted to see. I don't even know if I explained that correctly. That's how backwards all of this is. But that's, it's crazy, that we continue to have, and we talked about this last week or 2 weeks ago. It seems like more and more of these court cases against President Trump are crapping out. They're all fading away. But this one seems to be holding true for some unknown reason. But I would imagine as it progresses, it's going to get thrown out or it's going to get taken out on appeal because of the precedent set with President Biden.
This was, for Trump, this was probably one of the best things that could have happened, certainly, because now, now you have this blatant comparison. And it's not sort of kind of like, it is exactly. It is exactly like, and worse on Biden's part. He had stuff in his Corvette and in his offices from back when he was vice president, stuff that he shouldn't have even had in the first place. I mean, boxes and boxes and boxes of things, apparently, or files and files, if not boxes, files upon files, in such disregard for who could find them, who could read them. Mentioned it before, in his Corvette or in his garage with his Corvette, whereas I think whatever Trump had were in in his home, in his office, somewhere secured, basically, So absolute insanity. And I think, if there is any justice in the world, then this will reflect or affect Trump's case favorably. And what else has he got? I mean, besides all the other cases he's got going on, also the latest now, there a possibility of Fanni Willis getting disqualified in Georgia because of her undisclosed relationship. I mean, are these people for real? I mean, they are so corrupt.
The corruption part of it is ridiculous. And I am not one at all to give Ilhan Omar a pass. Okay. Right. She's been accused of a number of things, including marrying her brother, right? Yeah. Which is just a whole kind of weird. But I will tell you that as a culture thing, right? Having spent a lot of time in the Middle East, a very little bit of time in Africa, but a lot of time studying Africa, and even other parts of the world, that, greasing palms. Geez, actually, I'm a kid from Chicago. This happens there too. But greasing palms and doing things like being on the take and getting paid to do things that are part of your job anyway, and things that morally we would expect them to do, like that is a culture thing. I mean, it is business as usual. Nobody bats an eye at it because it happens all the time. And she comes from that kind of culture, right? Somalia is that kind of culture. So while we have a whole bunch of laws, campaign laws, and other things that she's violated, for her, not a big deal. Now, that's not Fanni. That's, she's from Georgia. Like, this is a American, but oh, by the way, she's a lawyer, and the law and legality is her life. So for her, this is a character thing. This is a lack of humility, a lack of hubris. You know what I mean? I think this is, like you said, how can these people walk into these jobs, take on something this pronounced, and believe that no one is going to dig into what they're doing or who they are or every aspect of their life? This is Jesse Smollett all over again. It's, that guy should have known that everything that, he was probably out of his mind, but he should have known that. And Fanni should have known the same thing. She should have known, especially when she put up such a snit about not being removed from the case, that every Trump supporter in the world was going to dig into every aspect of her life. Absolutely. And if she was doing anything wrong, she was going to get caught.
Yes. Yeah. And, I think the only thing I can come up with is, because these are not stupid people. These are not ignorant people. These are educated people. So it's arrogance. It's flat out arrogance that they sincerely believe that they're above the law. They're above reproach. They're, which is in itself incomprehensible, because you see these things happen over and over and over again in these exact types of things. Although, of course, the whole Trump thing is such a unique experience for the whole world, I think. But it's the arrogance for me that gets me every time. Like, wow, you really believe that you could just do these things without any accountability. Well, here's your accountability. Now you're in the spotlight. Now you're in the hot seat, and rightly so, deservedly so, based on, everything that's coming to light. And, good for him, assuming that it had to be Trump's team that, is doing the digging and finding these things, if they're doing their job right, obviously. But holy cow, man, it's bananas.
Well, and then you've got the Colorado ballot issue. Which I think, I don't know if a formal decision's been offered, but that's going to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court is essentially, I think the initial read is that all 9 justices are like, yeah, you can't do that. And we shouldn't do that. Even Bill Maher, right, who been really, until the last probably 2 years, has been a liberal lunatic for a long time, and is really kind of coming around and applying a lot of common sense to things that he used to be vehemently against. which has been interesting to watch, by the way.
Fascinating to watch.
Yeah, but even he said, he's like, if this happens, like Colorado as an example, because there's other states, Maine and some other ones that are trying to keep him off the ballot, but in Colorado, he was talking specifically. He said, if this happens, if this passes, and it is allowed that he is removed from the ballot, this will become the norm. This will become the new norm for every election that rolls around, is that there will be lawsuits to have people removed from the ballot as a political tactic. Whether it's necessary, valid, required, whatever, but that's going to be the tactic. If this is allowed, it's going to happen every 4 years, guaranteed, and probably will trickle its way down, because that's how politics works. It'll trickle its way down to state, from federal elections to state elections to local elections, and you will start to see, all of these things happening where, well, we don't like him, or we think he's going to beat us anyway, or she's got more power than we can account for, or she's going to throw a wrench in the election, whatever it is. Okay, well, let's have her removed from the ballot. Let's file suit and have her pulled or him pulled, and we'll alter the election that way, because that's what it is.
Absolutely,
you're rigging the election.
Yeah,
you're
there's
four people vote.
Right. Yeah. And, people, you're right. And people, they forget or disregard that, this has such widespread, long lasting implications. And, you think this is the end of it. You think if this happens, you think it's never going to happen again. You don't think this is the door being kicked open for this type of thing to happen. You're out of your idiot mind if you don't see what's coming down the pike here and what this means, what the implications of this are. And, and already so many things have happened that are setting a precedent for all future, presidencies and actions. So they better rein it in, man. I hope the Supreme Court does the right thing. And I'll tell you what, I don't care who the nominee, I don't care if it's Trump, I don't care who it is. I want what is right to be done, and this is clearly not right. And anyone who hates Trump, and we all know they're very vocal with how much they hate him, shame on you if you don't support what's right, and to see what's going on right now and to say this is okay because you don't like him. Boy, that's going to bite you in the ass, bite you real hard. And I'll sit back and laugh at you when it does, because you brought it on yourself. And
this is an all or nothing proposition, because whether it's the weaponization of the DOJ that started back with the raid at Mar-a-Lago, whether it's removing him from the ballot through lawsuits, whether it's the 7 lawsuits that are sitting with his name on it, prosecuting him for everything possible, whatever it is, this is an all or nothing proposition. And here's why. President Trump has a lot of character flaws. You and I are not shy about saying
nope.
That. And he has, I would say he's come out and said it. Maybe not as clearly, but he probably will. That man, he is vengeful. And this, and I say it's all or nothing, because if this is an unsuccessful political tactic by the Democratic Party to remove him from the election before it ever happens, which is the goal, if they fail in doing that and he is elected, he's gonna swing a hammer. And it's going to get ugly real fast. Now,
no question about it.
You and I owe, right? What all of us owe is to make sure that we hold him and the Republican Party as accountable in 18 months as we are holding the Democrats and President Biden and everybody else accountable during the election period. So when he does win, which he probably is going to win, and he starts acting like an idiot, and he does become vengeful, and he does start doing things that aren't for the long-term good of the country, like you were talking about. We need to make sure that we hold him and those around him accountable for their actions, because it's also not right when it's red. It doesn't matter what color it is.
No,
it doesn't matter if it's
really
red or blue. Right is right and wrong is wrong. And we can't stand by and say, well, you brought it on yourself. No, right? 2 wrongs don't make a right. I think we read that somewhere. We were probably taught that. I don't know. So, this is, we owe that, right? And it's people like me and you that have a voice and a platform. It is, trust me, the mainstream media is going to say it. That's for damn sure. But everybody who is a conservative supporter, even Trump supporters, need to make sure that he doesn't get out of hand because it's still not right, no matter what.
Right. Yeah, I think the thing sometimes rabid Trump supporters forget, and both sides have their rabid fanaticals. So this is kind of a blanket statement to all of them. We need to stop focusing less on our obsession with supporting an individual and remember our number one priority, our number one concern is this country, what's best for this country. Not, I hate that guy, so I'm all about this. This is my guy, and I'm all about him. That's great to have a love and affection for your proposed leader, I guess. That's lovely. However, don't do it at the expense of your country and at the expense of what's right and what's moral and what's legal and what's good. And that should be the everyone's primary focus. What is best for this country as a whole? And we tend to, if you're an intellectual voter and not an emotional voter, you tend to vote on the things that matter to you personally, your family. For example, we became Trump supporters because we're a law enforcement family, and Trump has been consistently hardcore, passionately supportive of law enforcement and military, and that was appealing to us. So that was thing number one for us. We were able to say, listen, I don't really care for the delivery. I wish he'd stop tweeting the things that he tweet, things like that. I'm not voting on a personality. I don't care if you're a jerk. I don't care if you're a sweetheart. I care about what you're doing, and what you're doing for my family, what you're doing for this country. And those are the things that people should be focused on. And I think if people actually took the time to look at the list of accomplishments of Donald Trump during his presidency, things that he actually did and who he actually helped, it's the exact opposite of what the left wants you to believe. And that to me is very frustrating and just flat out annoying because information is accessible. Granted, when you go through, some of these mainstream media channels or platforms to get information, you're going to get a lot of the left first before you sift down into at least the middle ground, if not necessarily the right, the middle. You got to work for it. You got to look for it. But I just wish people would do that. And I know, I'm not going to say the whole saying because it's pretty coarse, but it's if you wish in one hand and do something else in the other. I get that whole thing, but a girl can dream. Girl can dream for at least 1 minute here.
but and to your point about the media and again, transitioning topics, it's hard when the messaging isn't even true, right? From our elected officials, right? And the current messaging is our border situation is Trump's fault.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
right?
Everything's Trump's fault.
Right?
Yeah, especially that. It's his fault. The guy who was trying to solve that problem, it's his fault that it's not solved because he's not president.
And now it's Republicans' fault because they voted against the border bill because, as we said last week, it was a crap bill, right? So the messaging isn't even good from our elected officials, and then it's piled on by the mainstream media. So you really got to dig to get the true story. And for those of you out there, what we're talking about is another example of a failure of the sanctuary city concept. We've talked Chicago a number of times. Obviously that's for me that's an important place. It's where my family's at. It's where I grew up, so I pay attention to it. But New York, we talked about, we have talked about in the past that the 4 migrants that beat up jumped the 2 cops, beat them up, then got released on no bail, no cash bail, flipping the bird to everybody, blah, 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 blah. Right. And then I think promptly got rearrested states over after they got off of a Greyhound bus. But what New York City has realized, they have about 20 shelters specifically for the migrants that have been sent up by Governor Abbott from Texas. He's the share the wealth guy. Hey, you want to be a sanctuary city in New York?
Yeah, you keep saying, send them over. We can take more and more until we say stop.
Right. And now you got Mayor Adams, who's kind of in a pickle. And he's trying to figure out what to do with this, because what is proving to be true is that these migrants in a lot of cases are doing exactly what everybody is afraid of. That is, they're wandering the streets, they're committing crimes, and he's got 2 solutions to that. One, he's trying to give them prepaid credit cards, right? Which again, it's not free. these are paid for by taxpayers, and it's
yes, important note.
Right.
Yes.
And it's not chump change. It's like a couple of $1,000s, right?
Mhm.
I can't remember the exact amount, but it's a decent amount of money.
Right.
And then the other thing he's doing is he's established a curfew
Mhm.
for the shelters, 11 to 6, 2300 to 0600, 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. If you're in a shelter, you better be in that shelter.
Yes.
Like, that's it.
You know, thank goodness from 6:01 a.m. until 10:59 p.m. They can wreak havoc. But you know, get to bed now, kids. Go on now. Get back in that shelter. Go night-night. Be good boys and girls. Don't cause any trouble. And of course, I'm sure, without a doubt in my mind, they're like, oh, look at the time. Oh, stop robbing him. We got to get back to the shelter quick. Stop murdering him. Let's go, guys.
The ones who are going to break the law are going to break the law. They don't care. Now,
right.
And unfortunately, like everything else, the people that it's restricting are the people who are doing the right things anyway. There's probably a number of people in those shelters who would happily go out and get a job working in a convenience store, working at a trash dump, or wherever. Mm-hmm. They would happily go get a job that, works them overnight. They wouldn't care. They would take the money to make a better life for their family. Those are the people that are getting screwed over by the nefarious ones, the ne'er-do-wells, who truthfully don't give a shit about the curfew anyway. They're not going to abide by that. It's the same as gun laws. Like, criminals don't care about gun laws.
Yeah.
This is the same thing. So it's a failed effort. I understand what, Mayor Adams is doing. Is it Adams or Mick Adams? I think it's Adams. Right?
Adams. Yeah. Eric Adams.
I understand what he's trying to do. I do, but it's a swing and a miss because it's not stopping anything. None of it is.
He's trying to put a Band-Aid on the Hoover Dam. He's trying to, he's trying to just plug up a problem that needs a tourniquet. This is not, this is just absurd. It's absurd to even think for 1 second that could be implemented. I almost said implicated. Implemented. And you're asking, essentially what you're doing now, you're already overworked, over everything, law enforcement people to enforce this, to make them do this when you didn't have their back. You just let what was it? How many guys was it? It was like 3, 5. I don't know. However many of those guys that jumped thank you. You are not on good terms right now with the people that you should be on the best freaking terms with. And I'm not saying for 1 second that the NYPD or any other police officer who's worth their salt would shirk their responsibilities or not do their job. But you got a big ask what you're doing here for people who know already you don't have their back. You're not going to protect them or do anything for them. Good luck with that.
And he used to be the police commissioner.
How about that? That?
That has got to be the biggest slap in the face.
Sure is.
It's ridiculous. But it seems that he is coming around and realizing that all of this stuff that was on his platform that he, professed that got him elected is not going to work.
Right.
Conditions changed out of his control. Governor Abbott threw a monkey wrench in everything and said, hey, man, you like that sanctuary city thing, right? Okay, you do that.
There you
go. And look, this is the same as what's going on everywhere. Chicago's the same way. All these cities, they're all having the same kinds of problems. There is no real solution. And again, this is why Governor Abbott did it. He said, listen, this problem's not going to sit in Texas. Like, I'm sharing the wealth. This is if the federal government's not going to do their job, then it's going to become a nationwide issue. And that's what he's been doing. And good for him. So
absolutely. I applaud that man from here until eternity for what he's doing. Because he's putting it on their doorstep. You're going to talk the talk. Guess what? Now you get to walk the walk. So enjoy, have fun with that. And, once again, it is just mind boggling to me, and probably every sane, rational American and human being around the world who is sitting there looking at all this transpiring, going, well, no, duh. This is what is going to happen. What kind of idiot do you have to be to not realize this is what's going to happen? over everything. You're inundated, you're saturated to the max with people that you're unprepared to take care of, to house, to feed, and with no documentation to know what their background is and who they are. You know, you're not bringing in, this isn't you're poor, you're tired, you're weak, this is not that. These are the worst of the worst flooding through our borders into our cities, our states, everywhere. And these people have the audacity to go, oh, whoa, we didn't know this was going to be like this. We need some help. Yeah.
Well, and it's, yeah, no, I'm with you. And, changing topics one more time, but it's a trend, because what we've got is, decision makers either making wrong decisions or being incapable of making decisions. And in this case, we're talking about the Secretary of Defense having to take another stint out of pocket, where he's not available to do his job due to medical reasons.
Right.
And so now we had, we had a medical procedure that he didn't tell anybody about. We had an emergency medical treatment that he didn't tell anybody about.
Right.
And then now we've got a follow-up, although supposedly not associated.
That's
so
what
he
they're
has
saying.
cancer. He has cancer, for everybody that's not tracking. He has prostate cancer.
Right.
And he has he's been in the hospital for the last 2 days, I think, or so, maybe longer, with a bladder issue. And this is not a surgery. It's a local anesthetic treatment of sorts, right?
Right.
Regardless, this is in 2 months, less than 2 months. This is his third trip to the hospital.
Right. And each time, Clay, I'm sorry, let me just check with you. So each time that this happens, there has to be all of these like procedural things put in place, right? Like, because he is inaccessible. He's out of commission for X amount of time. So somebody else has to be put in charge. Like, I mean, I would imagine there's a lot of things that have to happen in very short order so that things run smoothly, or not. So
if you remember when he went in for the emergency procedure that nobody knew about, obviously, it was an emergency. We had the discussion where it was, there's, the president has to have processes and procedures in place that he needs to be notified when one of his cabinet members is going to be out of pocket. Right. And
kind of important.
And so that it lasted for about 3 hours in the news cycle, but I did catch it that the president did. Actually, I think it was a White House chief of staff did put some things in place that should have been in place anyway for exactly that reason, right? So that's why I think this couldn't be kept a secret, because now there was no joking around, a notification process that had to happen. But yes, there are multiple, deputy secretaries of defense that will step in for Secretary Austin. As it stands right now, depending on the situation. He's actually was supposed to be on a plane today to go to Europe.
Brussels, right? Yeah.
He was supposed to go to a couple of conferences, including a NATO leadership conference. And I think the U.S. ambassador to NATO is going to take his place. But again, this is the Secretary of Defense. You can't do Secretary of Defense work.
Right.
And I understand, and you understand, life happens. Okay.
Absolutely.
Right. You driving down the street, you blow a stop sign, get rear-ended, whatever happens, you break your ankle, you end up in the hospital. We get it. But this is an ongoing medical condition that, let's be honest, prostate cancer is, for General Austin, Secretary Austin's own health.
Yeah.
He needs to back away. Like, he needs to take care of himself. This is, prostate cancer is a killer. Like, it's no joke, right?
It is no joke. Yeah, so absolutely.
He for his own health. Look, that man served in the Army for 40 years. And I've told you that me included, everybody that ever worked for him loved him, right? And we all want him to have, he's earned a long and healthy retirement and spend time with his family and all that other stuff. The last thing that any of us wants, and I think the last thing that any decent human being wants, is for him to work himself literally to death.
Right.
Over this, this is a case where somebody in a responsible position yet again needs to grab Secretary Austin and go, hey, I love you. You've been doing a great job, but it's time. You got to call it.
Yeah.
You know, I know there's only
ironic that we have this playing out in two scenarios at once here. People in these, you know, I mean, it's such high positions who are incapable of fulfilling their duties to their full extent. And, you know, they clearly are not capable of saying, I can't do it anymore. I got to step back. So exactly like you said, who's, you know, there needs to be established somebody who's has the authority and the ability, or a team of people who have the ability to say, yeah, this is, you have no choice. You're stepping back. We're pulling in this guy or woman and, you know, doing what's best. Again, theme of the night, what's best for the country, you know? And I appreciate his badassery and, you know, in his case, I think it's probably is badassery. In Biden's case, it's something else. But in this guy's case, you know, I bet based on what you're saying, I bet he's like, I got this. I can do it all.
I promise you, it is, you know, it is that. It is that I'm going to stick it out. I'm going to tough it through. I can do this. You know, it's really not a big deal. There's only, you know, now 11 months left in the administration. I can tough it out to the end.
Right. Yeah.
Like,
no, don't do it, bro. Don't do it.
because again, it's only 11 months, but in the last 45 days, 60 days, you've been out of pocket three times. And maybe it won't happen again for the next 11 months. But if it can, you know, it could happen again in the next 3 weeks, right? This is, you know, he owes it to himself and his family, but he owes it to the country and the entire Department of Defense to take stock of, to take an honest assessment of where he is and truthfully, I think, back away. But now you've got the confirmation process to put a new secretary in place. It's been done before. Most people don't remember, but, you know, Liam Panetta, you know, left CIA and became the Secretary of Defense in the last year of President Obama's administration. So it's been done. That it's not a you know, a bridge that's never been crossed, but the timing sucks, and the political environment is definitely different because you know, and I know with the amount of, you know, stupid going on in Congress, the Republicans will deny confirmation for as long as possible, just to be disruptive.
Of course, that's a given, right?
They won't do the right thing either. They won't make sure that that the Department of Defense is covered, that there's a new SecDef in there. They will find whatever reason not to confirm a new nominee, and it'll become a political circus like everything else.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
It's a damned if you do, damned if you don't. And I understand what Secretary Austin's doing. I just wish for his own well-being that he does take a step back and be, for once in his life, in his adult life, be selfish. Truthfully.
I hope that for him. Absolutely. Oh man. All right, guys, we've been hitting you hard for, what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4 topics. We've hit you hard with all of them. Now let's go a little bit lighter. Let's let's recap the Super Bowl that I didn't watch. I
watched the overtime.
You did.
I watched. I was traveling. I was coming home from jumping out of a plane. So on Sunday, I missed most of the Super Bowl. I watched the last 9 minutes, and I watched the overtime. And I got my fill, like everybody else did, of Taylor Swift, which is fine. Right?
Yep.
I heard it was excessive during the game.
I heard that as well.
I don't care. I mean, we said it last week or 2 weeks ago. I don't care. Roger Goodell doesn't care. You know, she's bringing money to the NFL. Good for them. I was just going to
say, if it's making them money, they don't care.
No, they don't care. No. You know, but good for Kansas City, and really good for the 49ers too. They put on a great game. Listen, if you can take a Super Bowl to overtime, that's great.
Yeah, I did hear that. I heard that the game itself was a great game. I heard some early reports. Somebody, I saw a few people say that it was boring.
First
and then
half.
they quickly, the first, and then they ended up retracting that pretty quick, saying, okay, now it's interesting. So it sounds like it was a great game, a well-played game. And, you know, and of course I think you remember, I'm sure, the whole conspiracy theory that it's rigged, and there's still people saying that the NFL rigs the games so that blah blah blah. I actually saw a thing just today that somebody theorized, they're like, well, did you know that the NFL is designated as sports entertainment, just like WWE. So that means they can rig, I don't know. Maybe it does mean that. I don't actually care one way or another because I don't watch anymore. They ruined it for me. Colin Kaepernick all the way back with that knucklehead. That ended football for us. And, I certainly don't call for anybody. Didn't back then call for everybody ban the Super Bowl or ban football or NFL because, how I feel about it. No, we just quietly said, no, thank you. And moved on with our lives and did different things on our Sundays. We went for hikes. It was very lovely. So yes,
as an organizational leadership guy, right? And I stopped watching football too. I haven't watched a whole game and I can't even tell you how long. But as an organizational guy, the thing that surprised me was there was I think it was about 10 players that came out after the game was over with and said that they did not know or understand the overtime rule changes for this postseason. So evidently the NFL changed the overtime rules.
Oh boy.
This postseason. Right. And they walked into the Super Bowl not knowing. They walked all the way through the playoffs.
Wow.
Got all the way into the Super Bowl and didn't know or understand the changes to the overtime rules. Now, again, as an organizational leadership guy and a guy who's coached a lot of sports over the years, I can't understand that. Like, you have 2 weeks between the end of playoffs and the Super Bowl. 2 weeks.
Right.
Like, if you are not dotting every I and crossing every T, then you deserve to lose. And that's, the 49ers lost, and it was about 10 of their players who said they didn't know or understand. I think there's probably some Chiefs players too, but that is a organizational failure.
Sure. Yeah.
Top down. Like, that is a lack of planning.
Right.
There's a whole bunch of gaps in that. If you don't know the basic rules of the game all the way to the Super Bowl, you have failed.
Yeah. Wow. I had not heard that. So that's pretty crazy.
A massive oversight. Yeah. So, maybe it's not. Maybe it's not conspiracy. Maybe there's some truth to that. Who knows? I don't know.
Listen, everything comes out in the wash at some point. So we'll, someday we'll know or not. Either way, when they stop politicizing things and being social justice warriors, when they get back to just playing the damn sport, just get out on the field, play the sport, be done, do all your social activism on your own time, not on the field. That's my soapbox moment. Give us back football. And I say that because so I have my little bullet points here. Black national anthem. They had to do it. Had to bring it out there. One country, one anthem, one song. Sorry, don't like it. I don't care. That's my opinion. That's how I feel about it, guys. So that put off a lot of people like, what the hell is this? The woman's name is Andra Day, I think. Beautiful woman, beautiful voice. She's got a gorgeous song called Rise Up. Absolutely is nothing to do with her talent, her abilities, her vocals.
There were people getting yelled at in the stands on social media for not standing up for the Black national anthem.
Yes.
So there's that. It's the tolerant intolerance, crowd, kind of thing. It's too political. I applaud your soapbox.
Thank you.
Just play damn football. I would
just
go
play
back
the
to
damn
watching
game.
Football. Just play damn football. Don't care.
And by the way, I extend that to all aspects.
Sports.
If you're going to say no, which they did a few years back to the Dallas players who wanted to put the 5 murdered police officers' names on their shoes, they were denied. They said, nope, you can't do that. Then you're going to let, all this other, the BLM stuff, all of this, Colin Kaepernick doing his bullshit. You're going to say yes to all that, but you're going to say no to that. No, doesn't work for me. Say no to all of it or yes to all of it. Make a decision, make it apply to everyone and everything. And we're good. We're good. Then we know where you stand on all things, or better yet, I don't want to know where you stand. I just want to see you play the damn game. That's it. Let me wear my jersey. Let me make all of our football food for the day. Let my friends and family come popping. Oh, I'm done. I'm done with it. It's all good. The only other thing I will point out, 2 quick things. We got 2 quick things I want to point out that they made a big fuss over. Is this the picture? No, do I have a video or a picture? Hang on, guys. Oh, here it is. Hang on. I want to show you this.
Yeah.
So
Explain
yeah,
here,
so
where he
that's
talked
yeah.
about the lady next to him.
Yes. So if you missed it, I'm not going to play it again. You guys will see it. Just rewind and watch it again. But the chick that was with Taylor Swift, I think her name is Ice Baby or Baby Ice or Baby Spice. It's Ice something or other. Classless move, throwing up some devil hand signs and making sure she adjusts her upside down cross, making some type of point. Don't know what it is other than that she's an ass. And I thought that was pretty gross, but whatever. She's, she's entitled to do it. Certainly. I just think she's trash. That's all. That was all I wanted to say on that. Right. It's not much more to say about it. Trash. That's it. And the other thing, which this has been meme worthy now all over. And it's the only reason I actually saw it, but looked bad at first, ends up being not a big deal. Here it is.
After the fumble, comes over to Andy. He goes, keep me in. I live life, dog. I live life to the fullest. I try and, spread the love.
First of all, I did not know that's how he spoke. I've never heard him speak before. First time I've heard him speak, I had no idea that was his normal way of speaking.
Some time and listen or watch the podcast with him and his brother. With the
I'll have to. I will have to.
Very, very entertaining. They are a lot of fun. That I think was very much blown out of proportion. I mean,
it really was. It ended up being very blown out of proportion.
Yeah, you're
very passionate
about and I've heard a lot of people say, "Oh, if I did that, or if my kid did that," or listen, this is the Super Bowl. Okay.
Right.
This is not high school football. This is not you playing high school football with Al Bundy, a polk high in Chicago 35 years ago. This is the Super Bowl. This is today. This is Andy Reid's team. This is how he runs the team. You got a passionate player. You got all that kind of stuff. If they're not worried about it, then don't worry about it. And
exactly.
My kid, that's the example that they're setting. But listen, there are a lot bigger problems in the NFL that you should be worried about. Example setting than Kelsey bumping into his coach on the field, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
when you get the domestic abusers and criminals out of there, then we can talk. But that was just I 100% agree. Andy Reid, more importantly, Andy Reid is the one that was like, it's all good. Yeah, it's all good. Passionate player. I appreciate the passion. He says, I think he said, I don't know if he could hear it in the clip or if I cut it off, but he says, he's passionate. He bumped me and I wasn't prepared for it. Like I wasn't braced for it. Didn't know it was coming, and that was why it looked worse than it was. To me, it looked like a guy who was really passionate about the sport, and that's what you want, passion. And sure, could he have, maybe not knock the old guy over, but that would be your coach. Halftime show, I heard generally favorable comments about it. So all in all, I think everybody was pleased enough. I mean, you're not going to please everybody, so screw it, right? Yeah,
it's a Super Bowl. Everybody's going to complain about something, whether the commercials suck, halftime show sucks, or the game sucks, or whatever. It doesn't matter. You're never going to please everybody. It's still the highest rated TV show in America. And again, nice false advertising. I think has the highest Nielsen rating of all time this past Super Bowl, which Americans typically turn around and said, then it's the highest rated TV show of all time. I will tell you that every World Cup final over the last 20 years has had more viewership than any single sporting event in American history by far.
Wow.
Because you got global audience. You literally.
Good point. Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's right.
The entire globe stops to watch the World Cup final. Right.
That's cool.
But again, typical, response. Oh, well, it's highest rated ever Super Bowl, highest rated American TV show. So it's the greatest sporting event ever. It was less than 20% viewership of the last World Cup final. Just so everybody knows. Yeah.
That's quite that's a bit of an eye opener. Holy cow. Listen, guys, tell us, I hope you were sitting there taking notes fervently. You should have been there with your pen and your paper, writing down all the notes on each topic so that you could pose your questions in here.
Please do.
I'm only half, right? I'm only half kidding. We would love to hear your thoughts on each one of these topics. So don't hesitate to drop them in that comment section. We want to hear from you. We want your input. And as always, we are so grateful to you for watching the show. Hey, listen, don't hesitate to share. You can hit that share button and share it over to your friends and tell them to watch the show too. So I know Clay and I would appreciate that very much. And until next time, Clay, you take them out.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us again. Keep moving, keep shooting.